The signal arrived at 3:14 Galactic Standard Time. 3 repeating pulses. Then silence. Old, faint, and echoing across the void like the cough of a dead civilization. To most, it sounded harmless. Static. Space noise. To the Interstellar High Council, it was a ghost kicking open a locked door. Ambassador Threx of the Falari Republic choked on his velvet fruit wine and stared at the data stream, eyes twitching. This can't be real, he hissed. That signal hasn't been heard in over 5 millennia. 100 eyes turned to the chamber's central hollow, where the transmission looped in clean waveform. Pulse. 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 Then a single phrase in an ancient Terran language. Status, awaiting response. Please verify. The chamber fell into silence. Thick. Suffocating. High Chancellor Vern, a lumbering 3-ton crustacean from the marsh clans of Gorod, clicked his mandibles nervously. Confirm origin? The Council's AI, embedded in the obsidian walls, replied instantly. Origin, Sol System. Blue-class planet. Earth. The word hit like a shockwave. Earth. Extinct. Wiped clean in the Purge Wars. There were only theories now, legends shared between cadets at midnight, whispering about humanity like they were monsters under a child's bed. No, Threx muttered. They're supposed to be dead. A gelatinous analyst slid forward on pseudopods, shifting hues like an oil spill. Probability of post-extinction transmission is 0.000013%, Essex said dryly. However, probability is not certainty. And we're certain this isn't a hoax? Asked Laura, a slender avian with violet plumes. Her voice was sharp, curious. No rogue fringe group with a taste for Terran mythology? The AI's answer was blunt. Signal integrity matches human pre-Exodus technology. Unaltered. Unforged. Timestamp confirms origin from approximately cycle 00312. That was ancient. Before the galactic calendar. Before warp. Before the Council itself. Someone, Vern said, needs to go to Sol. Now. The expedition assembled in less than an hour. Fast track through red level clearance. No press. No announcement. The team was composed of 3. Shractal, a brute from the warclans of Gorith, 7 feet of scale and scar. Assigned for security, though more likely for intimidation. Laura, scholar, linguist, and one of the few living beings who had studied Terran languages without laughing. Essex, bureaucrat turned analyst. Useless in combat, but capable of slicing through encrypted code like it owed him money. As the diplomatic ship Merolite jumped to Sol, Shractal scoffed in the loading bay. Humans were weak. Died screaming, didn't they? Laura looked up from her datapad. That's the theory. But you've read the old war records? Shractal grunted. Propaganda. Essex gurgled something between a chuckle and a sigh. They built megacities on poisoned planets. Laughed while bombing each other. If that's weakness, I'd hate to meet strength. They dropped out of warp just outside the Sol system. Immediately, silence. No automated beacons. No defense nets. Not even asteroid traffic. Just a dead star system and a planet, Earth, hanging quietly in the void like a forgotten ornament. But it was too quiet. Shractal checked his scanners. There should be debris. Radiation. Something. There's something, Laura said, pointing at a blinking icon. An object was in orbit. Slowly spinning. Broadcasting a soft, persistent pulse. It was old. Human. A satellite. Still alive. They brought it aboard. The thing was barely holding together. Solar panels warped, frame rusted and pitted. But it pulsed, steady. Faithful. And then, music. Soft. Classical. A piano piece, worn and graceful. Essex tilted his form. Beethoven, he said. That's elegant for a species known for war. No encryption, Laura murmured. Just playing. Waiting. They turned to the Earth feed. Visuals from orbit. The planet's surface was scarred but green. Cities overtaken by forest. Ice caps restored. But the cities were clean. No chaos. No signs of hasty destruction. It didn't look bombed. It looked scrubbed. Something's wrong, Laura said. This place wasn't destroyed. It was emptied. They descended. Earth's surface was haunting. Skyscrapers reduced to monuments. Streets paved in moss and silence. No skeletons. No personal items. No decay. It was like someone had hit the reset button, then polished the results. They found the museum on the fourth day. Hidden under what used to be Washington, D.C., a bunker sealed in titanium, locked with a simple keypad. The code? 1776. Inside, lights flickered on as if welcoming them. Displays showed human history, wars, inventions, culture. They passed paintings next to missile schematics. Children's toys beside weapons of extinction. And in the center, a globe. Spinning. Lit from within. Underneath it, a plaque. Humanity endures. We are watching. Laura stepped back. They wanted someone to find this. Essex was silent. The slime on his skin had turned a nervous shade of purple. This isn't a museum, he said. It's bait. Shractal drew his plasma axe. Let them come, then. If they survived, we'll finish the job. Or, Laura said slowly, we've just rung their doorbell. That night, their ship's systems failed. No power. No lights. No comms. Then a voice, smooth, male, and unmistakably human, spoke through their personal translators. Clear. Calm. Polite. Hello. This is Captain Elias Vance, Terran Observer Initiative. Welcome to Earth. We've been expecting you. Shractal growled, show yourself. Oh, we will, Vance said, amused. But first, we have a few questions for you. The voice faded. No interference, no static, just gone. Shractal lunged for the comm panel again, only to find it dead. The Merolite sat powerless on Earth's surface, systems unresponsive. Weapons offline. Engines idle. It was a ship-shaped paperweight. Cut the atmosphere feed, he barked. We're being lured. Essex oozed past him, calmly scanning the interior. There's no signal flooding. No biological agents. No malware. We're not under attack, he paused. We've been parked. Laura's eyes narrowed. You don't ask to be expected unless you're already watching. Shractal growled. Then we make them watch us back. They suited up. Stepping out of the ship into the open air felt surreal. Earth's biosphere was perfect. Too perfect. Fresh. Balanced. Like someone had terraformed it, only to leave the lights on and walk away. Grass grew through cracks in old concrete. Birds circled overhead. Trees towered from the bones of skyscrapers. But it was quiet. Not dead. Not abandoned. Curated. As they made their way through the overgrown ruins of what the database labeled Old Chicago, they passed shattered monuments and gleaming metal statues of humans frozen in defiant poses. One held a flag on a scorched hill, staring into the sky. Another was a child playing with a model rocket. At the base was a plaque etched in perfect galactic standard. We left the door unlocked. That was on purpose. Cute, Essex murmured. Who's the message for? Laura answered without looking. Us. By the third hour of exploration, something was following them. No visuals. No sounds. But the trees were watching. The streets too quiet. When they crossed into a cleared square, a perfect circle of concrete surrounded by buildings, they heard it again. That voice. That calm, unshakable voice. Elias Vance. I imagine you're wondering where everyone is. Laura turned in place. No source. No echo. Just voice. We're around. Just, not in your way. It's easier to listen when you're not being stared at, don't you think? Come out. Sractal snarled. Let's not rush introductions. You're guests. Enjoy the hospitality. Lights flickered on in the surrounding windows. One by one. A wave of electricity surged through the buildings like a heartbeat. Power was everywhere, though they hadn't seen a generator since landing. Laura looked up. This isn't abandonment, she muttered. This is a stage. They reached what had once been a government building. Its steps were cracked, but its interior was pristine. White floors. Functional lights. Monitors blinking. A preserved map labeled United States of America, Defense Grid. Inside the main hall, a console blinked to life. Text scrolled across the display. Welcome, off-world observers. The briefing will begin shortly. Briefing? Essex said, shifting color. That's confident. The doors behind them closed with a hiss. Lights dimmed. And then Elias Vance appeared. Not in person. A projection. High resolution. Realistic enough to trigger threat responses in Sractal's war implants. Vance stood in a dark suit, hands folded, face unreadable. He looked ordinary. Clean. Friendly. Terrifying. If you're seeing this, you've triggered the observation protocol. Congratulations. You found us. We were never extinct. Just quiet. Strategic silence, you could say. Sractal stepped forward, teeth bared. You were wiped out. Vance smiled gently. You tried. Hard. I'll give you that. But we're not like the others you've crushed. We don't die the way you expect. Laura leaned in, eyes locked on the projection. Where are the humans now? Vance answered without hesitation. Here. There. Watching. Waiting. The council assumed annihilation. We preferred misdirection. What you call extinction, we call retreat. What you call silence, we call a reset. Sractal's voice dropped to a growl. Why wait this long? Vance's face darkened. Because the galaxy wasn't ready for us the first time. And you made sure of that. But now we know your systems, your languages, your leadership models. We've had time. Time to think. Time to watch. Time to prepare. The screen shifted. A star map appeared, systems across the galaxy highlighted in red. These are your command centers, defense platforms, and planetary AI nodes. As of this morning, they are being audited. Essex stiffened. You mean attacked? No. Not at all. Audited. You'll find your fleet still functional. Your leaders still breathing. Your system's untouched, mostly. We simply wanted to prove a point. If we were truly gone, this wouldn't be possible. The screen faded. The doors opened. Outside, the city had changed. Drones now buzzed overhead. Not hostile. Just watching. Laura stared up at them. They baited us. Essex replied, no. They invited us. Bait is subtle. This is a performance. From the shadows beyond the gate, footsteps approached. Real this time. A man stepped into view. Elias Vance, in the flesh. Wearing the same calm expression as the projection, though this time, his eyes studied them one by one. Greetings, he said, extending a hand. Let's not be strangers. Shractal ignored the handshake. Where is the council's fleet? You know they'll retaliate. Vance's smile widened, as if the threat amused him. Oh, they'll try, he said. They always do. But retaliation only works if your target hasn't been inside your firewall for the last decade. Laura blinked. You've already infiltrated the council. Vance's voice was soft. Controlled. I never said we infiltrated anything. But you assumed it. Curious. Essex cleared his throat. What do you want? Vance turned to him slowly. We want the same thing everyone does, security. Order. Continuity. But here's the problem. He stepped forward, lowering his voice. You assumed peace came from control. We assumed peace came from certainty, and certainty comes from knowing how far we're willing to go. He nodded toward the sky. And now you get to wonder just how far that is. Vance's smile didn't waver. Not even when Shractal drew his sidearm and aimed it straight at his forehead. You have 5 seconds to explain this audit, the warrior growled, before I turn your skull into powder. Vance's voice was calm, polite. If you shoot me, someone much less agreeable will come instead. Shractal didn't lower the weapon. He didn't need to. He never missed. Essex floated closer, his color darkening to a warning maroon. He's not bluffing. You'll be dead before your next breath. I don't doubt that, Vance said, unshaken. But you're misunderstanding something important. He gestured casually toward the sky. That ship you came in? It no longer belongs to you. Laura's head snapped up. What? Vance tilted his head. We didn't damage it. Wouldn't be polite. But we did replace its core firmware the moment you opened that museum bunker. Essex began frantically scanning with his internal systems. His gelatinous surface pulsed with stress. He's right. The core command structure's rewritten. Even the power routing is now routed through a Terran handshake protocol. Vance finished for him. You'll get it back, of course. Once we're done talking. Shractal stepped forward, blade humming. You think this is power? Tricks and hacks? Vance's smile faded just a hair. Not gone, just thinner. No, he said softly. Power is knowing exactly how far someone will go. You'll shoot a diplomat and feel proud. Me? I'll quietly overwrite your species' entire emergency infrastructure while offering you coffee. Shractal didn't fire. He didn't blink either. The moment hung like a held breath. Laura slowly moved between them. Enough, she said quietly. This is why you lured us here. To show us what humans became. Vance looked at her, eyes sharp behind the smile. Not what we became, he said. What we were all along. You just weren't looking close enough. Back in orbit, the Council was losing its mind. The encrypted comm relays buzzed with panic. Emergency session protocols were triggered. Multiple species had gone into lockdown. We have confirmation of human contact, said the Falari delegate through gritted fangs. Immediate military response is required. Against what? Hissed the Karthuri representative, voice trembling. They haven't declared war. They've declared presence. Ambassador Threx snarled. They're manipulating our fleets. This is psychological warfare. High Chancellor Verne raised one claw. It's more than that. Look. The main display showed red markers spreading across key council systems. Not explosions. Not invasions. Pings. Hundreds. Thousands. Human origin data requests, appearing inside core networks. Each labeled the same. Audit in progress. Thank you for your cooperation. Back on Earth, the four sat inside the bunker. No chains. No cells. Just silence and polite tension. Vance poured tea. Real tea. Steam curled from the cups like it had nothing better to do. You're wondering what we want, he said, placing a cup in front of Laura. She didn't touch it. You could have asked for a seat on the council, she said. Or vengeance. Why this game? Vance stirred his cup. Because games reveal who's paying attention. You see chaos. We see symmetry. He looked at Zrakdal. Your people raised Earth's moon with orbital lances. We remember. Zrakdal met his eyes. It was war. Yes, Vance agreed, sipping. And war is the best teacher, if you live long enough to learn. Essex's voice gurgled from the corner. Why now? Vance tapped the table lightly. Because you forgot. You turned extinction into bedtime stories. And now you flinch at the sound of our name. He leaned forward slightly. That's the difference between us. You assumed silence meant defeat. We assumed silence meant preparation. In the council chamber, panic had turned to arguments. Some species wanted immediate strike orders. Others urged diplomacy. Still others suggested pretending nothing had happened. Hide under a moon rock? Threx spat. They're already inside our systems. We're not equipped for psychological deterrence, snapped another. They're using information like weapons. They're using manners like weapons, someone whispered. That's worse. Back in the bunker, Zrakdal finally spoke. His voice was low, quiet. You want us to spread fear. Make you untouchable again. Vance looked up from his tea. No. I want you to understand. He stood, walked to the central display, and tapped a control. A map appeared, dozens of species, their timelines, alliances, collapses. And one quiet thread winding through them. We never left, Vance said. We observed. Intervened subtly. Influenced quietly. He pointed to a council world that had mysteriously avoided economic collapse during a galactic downturn. That bailout wasn't luck. It was a gift. He pointed to another planet, once devastated by plague. The cure was labeled as an accidental discovery. It wasn't. Essex's core pulsed slowly. You've been helping? Vance nodded once. Sometimes. When it amused us. When it served us. We weren't hiding. We were guiding. Laura whispered, so you want obedience? No, Vance said. We want memory. He turned, eyes cold now. The smile still there, but distant. We want you to remember what happens when humans are forgotten. Or worse, underestimated. Zrakdal stood slowly. You could have destroyed us by now. Why didn't you? Vance's tone turned razor sharp. Because conquest is messy. But certainty is clean. He walked to the door. Our kind doesn't need armies. We just need you to fear the moment we stop smiling. He looked back at them, hand on the frame. Your council will meet. They'll bluster, argue, panic. But one by one, they'll fold. Because they'll ask themselves the question none of you have dared say out loud. He paused. Silence filled the room. Then he said it for them. If this is what humans do when they're polite, what happens when they're not? The council convened behind locked doors. No media. No aides. No distractions. Only the most senior beings from 37 species seated around a crescent of void glass, faces pale, fur bristling, chitin twitching, eyes refusing to meet one another. Above them hovered a single line of text, pulsing in red. Audit in progress, human contact confirmed. High Chancellor Verne, claws trembling despite their iron coating, tapped the table. We need to decide. Now. Retaliation, negotiation, surrender. The Falari delegates slammed a fist on the glass. We don't surrender to ghosts. They're not ghosts, croaked the Carthuri data slug. They're accountants with teeth. We have fleets. Which they've mapped. Factories, hacked. Leadership, recorded. The Marsh clan's speaker hissed, so we sit? We wait while they crawl deeper into our minds? No, said a quiet voice at the end of the room. It was Counselor Thalrin, the only being old enough to remember the first silence of soul, the day humanity disappeared. He stood slowly. We don't wait. We listen. We've seen brute conquest. This isn't that. This is domination through understanding. The room stilled. They don't threaten like we do, Thalrin continued. They offer tea and dismantle networks. They ask questions and erase certainties. And worst of all, they're enjoying it. On Earth, Vance watched the sky with a glass of wine in hand. 72 meetings, he murmured. 9 emergency declarations. For assassination plots. All failed. Behind him, Laura stepped onto the balcony, gaze weary. Why tell us all this? Vance sipped. Because telling you is the move. She folded her wings. You want us to carry the message? No, he said, smiling. I want you to carry the question. He turned toward her, eyes glinting in the evening sun. Which is more dangerous? A human fleet above your homeworld, or a human who already had dinner with your president 3 weeks ago? Laura blinked. You've already? Vance raised his glass. I told you. We never left. Just stepped off the stage. Essex floated down the old corridors of the Terran bunker, whispering into his data systems. What he'd discovered chilled even his species' fluidic heart. Embedded deep in council infrastructure were dormant code threads. Not viruses. Not destructive. Just watching. Measuring. Logging response times, emotional reactions, species stress thresholds. Humanity wasn't planning an invasion. They were studying how well it would work. Back in the control room, he found Shractal sharpening his blade for the 4th time. They've outplayed us, Essex said. Shractal didn't look up. So what? We just bend the knee? Essex's voice dropped. They don't want knees. They want fear without action. Submission without war. Quiet control. Shractal's blade stopped mid-stroke. That's worse than conquest. Later, the 4 were brought to the Earth summit site. What once had been a burned-out marble dome was now gleaming, pristine, restored without explanation. A long table stretched beneath the open sky. At its center, Vance waited. Alone. Come, he said, gesturing to the chairs. Let's discuss the future. They sat, cautiously. There's no treaty to sign, Vance said. No terms. No war declarations. He poured wine. This is an audit, remember? We're simply noting reactions. Sractal snorted. You make threats with smiles. You call war diplomacy. You dress domination in manners. Vance raised a brow. We learn from the best. From you. He looked around the table. Every species here has done worse. You just hid behind formality. We decided to do it better, with precision. Laura asked, and what's next? Vance leaned back, letting the breeze catch his words. Now? You go home. Tell your leaders the myth was true. That humanity is back. He raised a glass again. And remind them, we don't knock twice. They returned to orbit to find the Merolite fully restored, hovering with quiet patience. All systems online. No trace of the human code. Not even a footprint. It was as if they'd never been touched. Which made it worse. Proof they could undo everything and still leave no fingerprints. Laura stared at the planet shrinking beneath them. They never needed weapons. Essex's voice was hollow. They used certainty as their blade. We handed them the sheath. Sractal sat silently, arms crossed, eyes locked forward. Even he didn't argue. Weeks later, across council space, strange things began to happen. A border skirmish fizzled before it began, thanks to an anonymous tip. A warlord's hidden vault leaked every financial secret to the public. Entire black market networks collapsed overnight, dismantled by insiders no one could trace. All with one message left behind. Audit complete. You're welcome. Terran Observer Initiative. Back on Earth, deep beneath Mount Weather, Vance stood alone before a console. The lights were dim. The chamber silent. He recorded a message, voice steady. Phase 1 concluded. Contact established. Panic measured. He smiled. Phase 2 begins. Observation teams are already in place. He tapped the console. A hologram blinked to life, a rotating display of key council species, their vulnerabilities, internal rivalries, weaknesses they didn't know were visible. He looked up. Cold now. The smile gone. Let them rebuild their pride. Let them comfort themselves with peace. And when they begin to forget, he pressed one final key. Remind them we are still watching.